Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek. VR news for Saturday, September 24th, 2016. Let's dive right into VR. Avatar Project, one of the viewers from the channel, sent me a YouTube video link to a Japanese RPG called Keirusei Million Arthur VR. Apparently it's based on a mobile card game. The clip, that is, shows a mixed reality scene with a female actor. Looks like she's playing kind of like a boss character. It's a combat sequence taking place in what looks like a cathedral. And it looks really good. Hopefully it's a meaty RPG, because I'm starved for one. While Vanishing Realms was good to whet our appetites, I think most of us agree it was just a little too short, and we want meaty RPGs. I want something that's, 10 to 40 hours to just really kind of get into, but hopefully they're coming. So this one's going to be released, the hopeful date, that is, spring of 2017. Now, next up, we finally have word on a story that I reported a few weeks ago regarding the Sony VR demo discs. When I first reported it, it was 8 games. Then the second time I reported it, the 8 games got bumped up to 18 for North Americans and stayed the same at 8 for Europeans. And there was speculation, maybe they made a mistake, they're going to rectify it. Well, we now have word from that Sony rep saying it boiled down to language localization. And now that they mention that, I should have thought of that, because that's absolutely true. And I've mentioned before, I'm Dutch, my father's side all live in Holland, North Holland, and my mother's side is the German side, all pretty much live there. And I can see the difference and hear it constantly. When I go back, the English proficiency with the German side of the family is roughly 40 to 50%. On my Dutch side, it's almost 100%. The reason is simple, it's cultural, and it has to do with subtitles versus dubbing. That's the big one. From a young age, Norwegian kids, Swedish, Danish, Finnish, Dutch kids watch TV shows, movies, subtitled. So they're seeing and hearing English actors speaking their native language. In Germany, Italy, and France, they're the big 3 for this. They tend to systematically dub the languages. So you've got all kinds of weird stuff happening, like Captain Spock is German, or Commander Spock, he's German, and it makes you do a double take. It just sounds funny as hell, right? So that's the big reason, the localization. Now, personally, it can get really ridiculous. For example, Xenoblade Chronicles. I don't want to speak for everyone in North America, but I would have had no damn problem with Xenoblade Chronicles simply playing the UK version. Ultimately, that's the one I played anyways, because I thought it sounded better. We're used to hearing British accents, the pronounced English on historical movies, to the point where there's a lot of kids, until they're teenagers, they think that people in the past spoke with a British accent, because that's how systematic it is for us, right? So yeah, and it has to do with, with that from a young age. If you see something dubbed, you're still hearing your language, so the penetration isn't there. Always exceptions. Berlin is very English. Amsterdam, you might think you're in an English-speaking country at times, right? Because you can use English literally everywhere to get around. So there you have it. Hopefully those are going to be available on Sony Store for download. Next story, the Pimax VR, or Pimax VR. It's a Chinese head-mounted display. It's 4K, and here's kind of the details on it. It's just over $300 US. That gets you the HMD. It's Oculus and Steam VR compatible, but doesn't offer positional tracking. So you're pretty much locked to standing games, which, like Damage Core would probably run, but raw data on the Vive wouldn't run. And the motion controls for Vive don't work with that unit that I'm aware of. Maybe there's a hack out there, they've changed it. So that's kind of the caveat to that. If that's something that interests you, yeah, if the unit is cheap enough, you can get it on VR. Just remember those limitations, that's all. I'm going to keep my eyes on that, though, because it's 4K, but we know that the 1080 can barely, it certainly can't display all VR games at, 1080p, 90 frames per second. It just doesn't happen, let alone 4K. So the native content on the Pimax is probably going to be 360 stuff, things that it can handle at the higher resolution that aren't going to not be possible in a game. Next up, $500 360-degree camera, kind of in that same market segment as the Gear 360. This one costs a little bit more, also has 4K capability, like the device I was just talking about. It's called the Allie camera, and the company's also called Allie. They are a division of IC Real-Time, and Allie is just a play on selfie, taking an Ollie. I think it kind of sounds a little cheesy, but I didn't name it. They named it. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 processor inside. It's going to be able to do streaming. Definitely a nice little unit. Very cool. No fish lens effect apparently, and it's full seamless 360. Next up, a haptic feedback vest, and I reported on one in the past called the Subpac, and one of you, I can't remember who, sorry, mentioned that you pretty much do not go into VR or watch movies or anything on your computer without wearing Subpac because you enjoy it so much. So this one is called the WOOJEE, and it's very similar in that it's vest-based. The WOOJEE has 6 haptic transducers. Through the WOOJEE SDK, you can localize the effects, which is really cool. And at 0 to 500 hertz is kind of the response. So definitely would be cool. I can imagine that being really amazing in a game like Audio Shield, where you've got the frantic pace, like watching, Chris Bauer from the channel play Audio Shield is amazing. The guy goes so fast. Having a haptic vest on, I think that could just take that game to the next level if it's compatible with that game. I'm not sure what the compatibility is. And then last story, guys, has to do with Nielsen's ratings. Now, Nielsen's is very similar to Ipsos Read and some of these other ones. And any time we deal with surveys, as most of you know, you take them with a freaking grain of salt. So there were 8,000 people involved in this survey. You could pick 800 people in North Ireland and then 800 in the Republic on the same topic, and you're going to get, completely skewed results that you would if you did all of them in one of those regions, depending on the topic, right? Well, it's no different with VR. But okay, so what did they find out? So it's 8,000 people that were surveyed. 25% of the respondents, after simply being told verbally about virtual reality, said it was something that intrigued them and they were going to probably buy it. Okay, 20% saying they don't plan, but still had an interest in it. They would probably consider it. The results went way up. 68% of respondents wanting to buy it after they were able to try it, HMD. And I know it's a cheesy play on the whole O.J. Simpson thing, or Field of Dreams, right? You build it, they will come. Try it, you will play it. Absolutely. We've said that on this channel. Me, you guys, anybody who gets VR knows you have to have people experience it. So no difference with this. It's, again, why I say this needs to be everywhere. I've even contemplated going to a mall and doing it, but those are simply extreme thoughts. I wouldn't actually do that, but that's the kind of evangelism almost it's going to take from Vive and Rift to really get this to be a huge market share item. Otherwise, it's going to be good growth, but it's not going to be crazy, crazy growth because it's just not everywhere for people to try. But it will grow. So there you have it, guys. A link for that is below. As with everything else, plus the timeline. I always like to include a timeline for you guys if there's just certain things you want to hear or check out. As always, all the details below. Cheers, guys, and definitely catch you on the VR flip side.